Hi, I'm Jim Lawton, and I'm a crazy artist and a research biologist, both. But I got all my training as a research biologist and spent a lot of time, years in fact, at 3 different museums, in particular the Milwaukee Public Museum, the Utah Museum of Natural History in Salt Lake City, where I was even the acting director, and then on to the Neville Museum in Green Bay. So I spent a lot of time in museums, and that's where all of this got its start. Because when you're a curator at a museum, you do a lot of traveling. And being a research biologist, that's what I did. I, in fact, surveyed all the states of the United States except 4. And out of that came a lot of photography. And I spent a lot of time in the field, particularly national parks, which was one of my favorite places to go to. And in the process, I developed over 20,000 slides, which I still have. So now that I'm retired, which I am, I spend a lot of time at home in my studio and use those slides to develop these paintings that you see right here. These are oils. And it's just a passion of mine. I can't stop. In fact, my wife, who never sees me anymore because I'm always down in my studio, she says, "I never see you anymore," and that's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but it tells the story right there in just a few words, because I am down there an awful lot, and it's where I like to be. And out of that comes these paintings that you see here. They're very realistic. I have a very strong realism technique. I use a lot of different brushes. In fact, I brought them all with me. In fact, I have my fine brushes, which I use for the fine detail. They're right over here. I mix all my paint in film canisters, and it's a wash. I use a very diluted wash technique with oil paints. I also have pill canisters. I couldn't paint without them because I mix everything in them, and they are used in all my paintings. And then, of course, as I mentioned to you, my fine brushes. In fact, this is perhaps my finest brush. It's a very small, little, tiny brush, and I use this for doing very, very, very small detail, which you see in a lot of the paintings here. I also use rags. How I could paint without a rag, I don't know. It's extremely important, and you can see this rag has been used for a lot of colors. So I will actually take a rag and uncap a vial. If I just get this open, and actually put some of that color right on a rag. And then I take the rag and I use it for making grasses, trees, vegetation, rocks, you name it. And it's a technique I use a lot. So these rags are constantly being used. The brushes, what I showed you before, just for detail. And they don't get used very often. And then my other brush, which is very important to me, are Q-tips. These are my finest brushes. And I use a lot of Q-tips. Why? Because it spreads paint very nicely and evenly. I can actually lift paint off if I want to do that with just mineral spirits. And they're so often used. I go through hundreds of these things. Walmart just loves me because I buy my best brushes there. Sponges. Oh, are these important? Because all my pine trees, all my conifers get used with a sponge. I couldn't paint needles without it. Again, I dab it in paint and just dab it on the canvas, and without it, I couldn't paint a conifer if my life depended on it. Conifers are not done with a bristle brush. They just aren't. I don't even try. because a sponge will do it completely and very realistically. So when you look at the paintings, you see a lot of some strong realism in those paintings. That's because I have the right tools for doing that. A sponge, Q-tips, a fine bristle brush, and my vials full of paint. Now, getting back to the vial full of paint, I can mix my colors in these. So when it gets down to it, when I have to replicate that color in another painting, or say a week to 2 weeks, even a month later with the same painting, I can uncap this and go right to the color that's already mixed. I don't have to mix a color and try to match. I've already got it mixed. That's the importance of these vials. So, that's it. I brought my entire palette, my tools, and they're all right here.
So did you take art classes, or are you self-taught?
No, I'm self-taught completely.
Wow.
Well, when I joined up with the Milwaukee Public Museum, which is the third largest museum in the world, it was a brand new museum, and at that time I was going to school in graduate studies at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. I got a call, and they asked if I would join the force. They had over 300 new people, and I was one that was hired to be there. But in the process, they had a lot of new artists. When I say artists, hundreds of very, very talented artists. And they were there to do one thing, and that is to build a museum. So they had a lot of new dioramas going in, a lot of art. And one of them was Joe Clemens, who became a very, very close friend of mine. Probably one of the finest artists that ever lived. He's passed now. He's passed away now, so I lost him. But he is just an amazing guy, and he taught me everything I use in my work right now. He painted every noon. While he ate lunch, he painted, and he showed me how he did it. Secondly, he went with me on a lot of trips. So when I talk about driving around and surveying the states in the United States, he was with me on a lot of those trips. And a lot of talk took place in that front seat of the car. And I'm just indebted to him. And because I don't have Joe, I have his work. I have a lot of his work in just draping my walls. Constantly I'm referring to him because he was, without a question, one of, if not the best artist I ever knew. And that's where I received all my training. I wished he was here because we could do it together, but we're not. Secondly, he was a historian. That was his background. And all the times that we traveled and with all the places we went to, being a historian and an artist, he told me a lot about the history of the area. So, oh my gosh, the education that I received. And that's what you see on the walls right now, are the paintings that of places I've been to, and the passion that he passed on to me and I put on the canvas. So that's it. That's pretty much it.
All right, James, that was fabulous.
All right, thank you.